What is poppin'? It is a Slaptain. I'm but a lowly Flapton riding these ReFi waves, and this is all the ReFi news that is fit to go ape wild over. Of course, with me is the man with the plan. Estonian Summertan, the Estonian madman, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man who's so sweet he's never sour, leader of the regenerative finance vanguard, Sir Rez.
Hello, it's me.
It's you, dude.
How are you doing, Mr. Slapton? Are you having a great time?
You gonna pretend like we just weren't discussing demographics and homogeneity and
for 2 hours?
for 2 hours? You gonna pretend like we didn't just have an in-depth conversation about things and we're just meeting now?
Nah, we're just meeting now, dudes. Like, we've never talked. I don't know who you are.
We don't talk off air.
Yeah, never. That would be stealing content.
Now that crypto and ReFi are dead, we've been talking off air a lot more.
But yeah, with crypto being dead, how about we celebrate the first news of a week of crypto being dead?
Let's do it, man. Crypto is dead,
Yeah, it's so dead.
and who killed it?
According to a new bill passed in the US, you have the legal right to have a self-custody set of digital assets that you can use to pay for things for. And no federal agency is able to take that away from you. So that's a thing. That's a new thing in the US. It looks like crypto's dead. Should really start selling your Ethereum now.
Could you imagine an alternate reality in which self-custodying was outlawed, and if you carried around a hardware wallet, you'd get cited for that or arrested?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. I mean, how dystopian can you get, right? Like, you have to trust the bank. You have to trust the bank with everything you have. Otherwise, we're going to come for you. You know, that's how everything should
The
work.
police patting you down. Do you have anything that's going to poke me? Do you have any guns? Do you have any drugs? Do you have any hardware wallets?
Hardware wallets?
Do you have any ledgers and or treasures? And if you do, you're going away for a long time, buddy. What is this piece of paper? What is this alphanumeric string that you have on this?
No, dude, it's like, no, what is this piece of paper? Why are there words on it? Oh, that's a specific amount of words. Legally, you can't have 16 words on a piece of paper, my friend.
16 random words? You're going away for a long time.
16 random words? Oh, no.
We can't have this. Imagine they took away the right to self-custody your crypto. Like, I can't imagine that would have flown. Like, I'd imagine it would have been challenged constitutionally. Likely would have violated a few rights.
Imagine like the narrative of like, no, we need to make sure we're combating money laundering effectively. And because of this, not a single person can own any of their own money. We also are outlawing cash. Cash can't happen anymore. You just have to pay with card for everything. And every time you make a transaction, like a bank representative literally has to call you and ask you, hey, what are you doing with your money? Looks kind of suspicious. Why are you transferring this much? No, you can't do that. Can I put you in touch with your like personal account manager so we could have a chat about how you're spending your money?
That would work. If you outlawed all money in cash, there wouldn't be money laundering.
Yeah, that's infamously how that works.
That would work. And I feel like, me personally, I'm already on the everything I do is traceable because I literally put everything on my credit card. Like everything.
Same.
My strategy is to put everything on my credit card, pay it off at the end of the month, and then just get like the points or whatever.
Okay, yeah. I've never had a credit card in my life.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I only have a debit card. I've never had a credit card.
This is alarming.
Really?
This is very un-American. When you're born in America, they give you a birth certificate and they give you a credit application for credit cards.
Yeah, so you could start building your credit score early, you know.
So you can start wrecking your kid's credit score. You take one out in your kid's name and just destroy
This too,
it.
but you need to build your credit score because of the whole home loan thing, I would assume. Like, you know, if you have like some good evidence of being like a good credit payer or something.
That's right. That's how you build it. You build it by buying shit coins on like credit card
On a credit
ramps.
card.
Yeah, that's right. And then you
Yes.
self-custody that.
You build it by buying Ethereum through a ramp on a credit card and then paying it off at the end of the month. Yeah,
100%.
that's the
Well,
system.
this is good news. We like the fact that our right to self-custody crypto is now instantiated in law. I will continue using my ledger and or Trezor. What do you use? You use something completely different, right? What are you using now?
Yeah, I use this thing called a Tangem wallet.
A Tangem wallet.
Yeah, which is just basically a card.
It's an RFC card, right?
Yeah, it's an RFC card that has your private key on it, and then it's not shared with any device externally. So it's essentially just a card with a private key on it.
Nice. Sponsor us, Tangem.
Yeah, I think that's surprisingly a thing we could probably make happen.
Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to go into depth with this on? I think it's pretty self-explanatory, and I think it's good. And if anybody has a problem with this, anybody watching, get out of here right now. Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Get out of here.
Yeah, it's dope. You can make legal transactions. Like, you can spend coins for any lawful purpose now. Before, it was kind of a gray zone, which is also strange, but now it's a thing. So, everybody I think should feel nice about that, even if you don't live in the US, because everybody's going to copy what the US is doing anyway.
And if you don't live in the US, get out of here. No.
Get out of here.
The other thing we were, I think, mentioned off air, which is like interesting, like also this sets up fortuitous things downstream, right? So like if you have the right to self-custody, then you should, or you could make the argument that one also should have the right to fiat on and off ramps, because our analogy would be like saying you have the right to drive, but there aren't roads and the government is going to outlaw all roads. Like you could challenge that and say, like, if I have a right to drive, it would be logical to assume that roads should be a thing, right? So how could you self-custody without fiat on and off ramps?
Yeah, exactly. It's like saying you have the right to watch YouTube, but also no internet.
Right. Yeah. So you'd be able to challenge that because it's parcel of being able to self-custody is having an ability to gain crypto. So that's our not legal opinion, but
anyway, very dope. I think this is a one step in a very long road of steps that we're going to observe, which are all, hey, it turns out like crypto isn't as much of a meme as you thought it was, and maybe everybody can have an alternative to having all of their money in banks.
What if instead of crypto, what if we did away with the moniker crypto and we just called it internet money? Do you think people would be more on board?
I think both of those sound like kind of fake and made up. Let's be honest. Like internet money is like, the magic internet money. Like this is basically it, right? That's what they, I think, called Bitcoin when it was invented. It's like, oh, it's just like magic internet money.
Yeah. Network currency? I don't know. Electronic currency? Maybe crypto is just a bad word because it sounds cryptic and money laundery.
Yeah, it kind of does. It sounds complicated already because it sounds a bit like cryptography, and cryptography is just like too many numbers, It's like kind of...
It's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, it's too many numbers. Like, you can't trust anything that has that many numbers.
I agree.
Then you have to have less numbers, and then we can't call it crypto. We have to call it like peer-to-peer, peer-to-peer money. Like,
I don't even trust my social security number, dude. There's too many numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it has to have less numbers. Like, you need to call who manages those, like the IRS, like, wait, Social Security. No, that's who in the US manages this.
I actually think there's an organization that specifically manages Social Security numbers. I forget the name of it. I'm being serious. I think there's the Social Security Department or something like that.
Okay.
I'm not being a good American citizen right now.
I know, like, historically, it's like, no, we're not allowed to have, like, ID cards. And then, like, one government agency was like, no, we kind of need ID cards to keep track of people. And then all the other government agencies were like, oh, that's useful. I should also use this. And they were like, no. Stop.
Yeah. I'm going to look this up right now. Who manages Social Security numbers? The Social Security Administration is what it's called. I knew that it was like it's earmarked for a particular organization.
Yeah.
So there you go. So pretty soon we're going to have an administration for self-custody or crypto wallets, right? They're going to assign one to every person. That would actually be an interesting workaround for the government to allow self-custody, but also be able to track who uses what. So if you're assigned your government regulated
private key,
but you're not allowed to use anything else, then it's not a private key, I suppose, or anonymous anyway. But
it was very personalized. You can even have your own like .us domain and everything. It's great.
That's what we want. Well, this is good news, and like you said, first step in a long litany of fights that we're going to have. And then speaking of that, we have the Agricultural Committee. If you're like me and you wake up every day and you rail against the feckless nature of the Agricultural Committee, you wake up and go, that Agricultural Committee, man, they just can't get anything done. Why do we even have them? What problems have they solved, right? And so, well, here's one for the Agricultural Committee, solving, or at least attempting to solve, crypto bills. Because when I think of cryptography and I think of network monies and magic internet monies, I think of agriculture.
Mhm.
Don't you, Rez?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what we need is tokenized wheat. I think that's what we need.
I think you're right.
Like the traceability, I think it's going to add a lot, help the FDA track down food poisoning or something. And yeah, I'm glad we're innovating in agriculture, but like not in the financial
Yes.
regulatory part.
Pardon my French on this one, but the fucking House Agricultural Committee is the one passing bills on crypto because this is my favorite part. The Financial Services Committee couldn't get it done.
Yes, this followed by like a day-long thing where like the Financial Services Committee couldn't put together the procedural elements of like getting the stablecoin bill into the conversation at all, and it seems like the Democrats want to kill the stablecoin bill because of reasons, and I'm sure the reasons have nothing to do with centralizing power more into the government.
Dude,
Yeah.
no. It's for your own good. It's anti-money laundering. It's irresponsible to allow a undefined basket of assets to be collateral for stablecoins. And so what we're going to do is just kill it outright. We're not going to like narrow the scope. We're just going to continue to drag our heels and like it's for your own good, citizen. But the House Ag Committee said F that. While we may be in charge of wheat, we're going to take the initiative. It's a big dub. It's a big dub for the House Agricultural Committee, quite frankly.
Yeah. Good job, House Agricultural Committee. You're doing things. Very nice.
That's right. And so the U.S. stablecoin bill, we didn't mention this, but it's the U.S. stablecoin bill because the U.S. realized, hey, like those European Union guys over there, they're kind of kicking our butts in terms of like clarity. Maybe we should do something about it. The Financial Services Committee said, nah. And the Agricultural Committee said, like, we're really good with cows and crypto. Cows and crypto is actually going to be their...
That should be like, yeah, exactly. Like the headline of Agricultural Committee, cows and crypto.
Cows and crypto. They just took it by force, man. Like they grabbed the bull by the horns.
Yeah, they did it. Good job. Doing things. And related to wrapping up the whole like US regulatory thing, because this is basically all of crypto meta apparently right now. We have the U.S. House of Republicans introducing a crypto oversight bill, which changes from June draft. And in the revisions, it doesn't bode well from DeFi, apparently.
There's a bunch of digital assets, including stocks. There's a bunch of things that would not constitute or would not be allowed to be like digitized. And so while the bill, some would see as a step forward in the process, like that exclusion was heavy and deleterious, potentially damaging to the whole movement, right? Because one of the ideas for crypto is that it's going to, like software, eat the world, and essentially everything can be tokenized and put on a blockchain and become immutable. But if you can't put things like, it was a very broad definition, transferable shares, anything that would be considered like an investment contract.
Yeah,
if it
like
can't be tokenized,
interest,
then like, what's the point, right? Like, what are we going to tokenize? Cows? But then you could even say that that's an investment contract to some degree.
That could be an asset, right?
Sure can, right?
Basically, that already means it's a profit interest, and therefore come and register everything. Also, we won't put together the rules for you to register anything, but come and register, it's fine.
Yeah, I think transferable share, like which is so broad, a range of traditional securities, stocks, bonds, transferable shares, certificates of interest or participation in any profit sharing agreement. Like, well, that's like everything because of capitalism.
Yeah, basically. There's this like cool protocol I like called Gamma, if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah.
How the governance token essentially works is that you just take it and then they buy back the governance tokens from the open market and then give them to you. Like that's how that works. So, it's an automated process, but, now you can't do it. It's basically you did a crime writing immutable code. Now, that's a problem.
Do you know who we should get to remedy this? Honest organization that works hard in crypto regulatory frameworks.
Oh, yeah. Obviously. It's our Lord and Savior, the House Agricultural Committee.
Cows and crypto. If anybody from the House Ag Committee is watching this, we want to talk to you.
Yeah, please do more good things. It's pretty dope. Just cows and crypto is a good vibe.
Love it. So that's the U.S. regulatory landscape, a shit show as per usual, and likely will be for the foreseeable future, probably forever.
Because reasons. Everything's fun. Everything's fine.
Yeah. So moving outside the good old United States of these Americas, let's go a little international, eh?
Ooh, international. Where are we going?
We're going to go to the bastion of freedom, efficient governments, where enlightenment was birthed and still continues to this day. When you
Yeah.
think of the shining gem, the shining light throughout the world of government and just
Well-functioning institutions that
yeah,
don't take like 6 months to do basic paperwork. Yeah.
we think of Italy.
Italy, obviously, because Italy state services very fantastic. Opening up a company 3 months, I think, right?
Sending a piece of mail 6 months.
Yeah, sending a piece of mail outside of a country, maybe like it'll get there
It'll
at some
get
point.
there.
Soft guarantees.
This is their guarantee on international mail. It'll get there probably.
We promise it'll get there.
It'll get there like
Yeah.
what's the time frame on this international postage? It'll get there probably. Like can you be a little bit more definitive? And the guy behind the counter, or the girl behind the counter is just like, I don't know. And then they just like start throwing pizza at you.
As is the traditional norm. Italy doing some cool things. And the cool thing that we're doing is that we're exploring tokenized assets in collaboration with Fireblocks and Polygon, apparently. And they're looking into how do they have tokenized assets on chain and how do they move that around and how do they have institutional DeFi for security tokens. So all of this is incredibly interesting, and I think comes as a consequence of the EU MiCA bill coming into effect soon, which functionally creates a lot more regulatory clarity for also institutions to explore what does it mean to interact with the sort of new age internet-based ways of doing ledgers instead of a politician in a shady office, casually smoking a cigarette while looking outside of a window and thinking about paperwork.
I'm going to push back on that characteristic of a shady politician. They'd be smoking a cigar, not a cigarette.
Well, yeah, I didn't even mean a politician. Like, I think it's, just an average government worker who has been tasked with doing paperwork.
Definitely
paperwork that some other organization then has to write somewhere else, and all of this I'm afraid still happens on paper, most likely to a honestly upsetting degree. So I think especially in the context of Italy, this seems like an insane jump if they manage to pull this off.
What are you gonna do with all these people that are smoking cigars and processing paperwork? What becomes of them, Rez? Are you suggesting we put them out of work?
Yes. Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will they continue to smoke cigars if they aren't working in these offices? And if they aren't smoking cigars when they are jettisoned from their positions, does that mean that we're also going to be hurting the cigar industry? What I'm getting at is this a net positive?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, ultimately, I think it's going to end up being a net positive once the bureaucrat gets a different job, potentially, as a professional cigar taster. I think that would be a move up, and then they could contribute to the economy in a different way, which doesn't require them to still move documents on pieces of paper around offices.
Now you're speaking my language. Now, here's the thought I had about this. Is it possible that the nations that don't have infrastructure or have failing infrastructure or corrupt infrastructure will actually be the ones that adopt crypto first and find themselves an advantage? Because to date, the ones that have adopted some level of crypto and like what's the one in Jesus, Bitcoin Lightning Network, Central America.
Oh, you mean Colombia?
Dude, I can't remember who it is. This is sad.
I'm pretty sure it's Colombia.
I don't think it is Colombia. I think it's once you say it, I'm going to know it immediately, but
it's not Colombia.
I don't think so. Bitcoin is a legal tender. There's only a few.
El Salvador. Yeah.
El Salvador. Yes. The savior. Also, did you know that El Salvador's actual name is an entire it is 15 words long?
Really?
Yeah. So El Salvador, very good example. They adopted Bitcoin because they really had nothing to lose. So it may be the case that these countries that are established and whatever, like the United States, are just going to hold out because what's the incentive for them to adopt a new system if their current system has global hegemony?
Exactly. If a dollar is doing so well, why would you accept Bitcoin as legal tender, right?
Right.
You're just shooting yourself in the foot. How are you supposed to control monetary policy if you can't control the amount of Bitcoin in circulation?
Well, you buy it all up because your dollar has value. You back your dollar with Bitcoin and voila, now you've leveraged the Bitcoin.
Oh, that's a fantastic pipe dream. I want that to be true. I want that to be true so much.
Do you know who proposed this was the Democratic presidential candidate RFK Jr.? He has said that recently, that that's what he wants to do, is back the dollar with Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's basically courting all Bitcoin maxis, all 500 of them. Like, we're gonna be so enthusiastic.
None of them
Yeah,
vote because they don't want
none
to
of them vote because none of them believe in government. But
Yeah.
like, if they did, they would vote for you.
They don't want to be on the voting rolls. They don't want a record of where they live. But if you're a one-issue voter, calling all one-issue voters, here's one for you. So there you have it. Italy taking a cue from the House Ag Committee, taking the bull by the horns and saying, you didn't see this one coming, did you? So good on you, Italy. Very excited to see how they screw this up and it becomes like a rigmarole of 40,000 blockchains. Like, every department has their own proprietary blockchain that this information has to
every
pass through.
organization has been lobbied by a different non-EVM blockchain. I think that's the vibe.
Right.
You'll end up, with like XRP in one place. You'll end up with Chia in another place.
Real estate on Solana.
Yeah, something's on Solana. Exactly. Like, none of them run Solidity. That's the mandatory, like, thing that can't happen.
Right. What's it? Phantom? A DAG?
Well,
like, next news out of Italy is we're moving forward with our blockchain and it's going to be a DAG. It's going to be on Phantom. And then the whole world just goes, oh.
Yeah, we're experimenting with Cardano, like, all of the hits,
Jesus.
there's like all of the hits of non-EVM blockchains, just all of them. And then you're like, oh, how about we try the thing that worked? And it's like, no, that's not secure.
No, and it's like, why? It's like, there's no graft there.
No, nobody came and marketed it to us.
Yeah.
We can't do it.
And an offensive Italian accent. No, but there's no graft. And you got to do the hand thing. Like, I've never been to Italy, so my perception of Italy is when you go there, you get off the plane and everyone's just doing this. Like,
they're not even saying words anymore.
They're just going like this. Yeah.
Sorry, Italy. Also, sorry, non-EVM blockchains.
But not sorry. Get with
sorry,
it.
Not...
Let's parlay that into a layer 2 play by Celo and Polygon. We're going to go a little out of order, but let's do it.
All right.
I think the transition is there. So Celo, our favorite blockchain, your favorite blockchain, our favorite blockchain, the world's favorite blockchain.
The most favorite, yeah.
That's right. And Polygon going into being a layer 2 for Ethereum. Now, Celo, in my opinion, is a little bit more exciting because, as far as I'm concerned, Polygon kind of already was. They were always a side chain. And then, behind the scenes, they were slowly becoming a layer 2. But Celo, essentially saying we want to adopt or to integrate the security of Ethereum into our blockchain. Good on them, quite frankly, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't you? Like, being a layer 1 is so 2016. Like, I think we've mentioned this a couple of times on this podcast. I think both of our opinions are quite well known on this. But like, there's no good reason to be a layer 1. I don't think so. Like, at
this point, no.
Because every layer 1 functionally means that you have your own security that you need to run to make sure that nothing bad happens to your system. And if you just use Ethereum for your security, everybody has this net benefit of relying on a thing that just gets better and better the more people use it for the security, right? So, huge, great move. Celo is transitioning into being an Ethereum layer 2. They're doing some interesting engineering things in the background. So we have 2 articles next to each other. One of them is the Celo article about how they're moving into a layer 2. And then there is Polygon blog post about how they're moving it into being layer 2. What is common across both of them is essentially the data layer, meaning that there are a couple of ways of creating a layer 2. So let's quickly maybe define what that means, Slaptain, because sure. I think this is like an important conversation, right? Like, if we're talking about technicals. So what's a layer 1? A layer 1 is something that has its own security and it has its own data availability as well. Essentially, like, all of the data exists on the chain. You have the security of the chain guaranteed by a set of some security
mechanism.
Yeah, like a proof of stake, proof of work, proof of space and time, like, you name it.
Proof of humanity.
Like, proof of humanity. You can have like a whatever like system you want, but ultimately it's like, we need multiple parties to at the same time agree to what reality looks like, and we need to make sure that the reality stays the same for all of these organizations across time. So we need to have a way of reaching an agreement on what reality is, i.e. a consensus mechanism. So this is a very important thing for a blockchain because that is what makes your system secure. And if you're, for example, a proof of stake blockchain, that means that you have the security problem where if somebody really wanted to, they could buy up a bunch of your tokens. And if they had a critical stake in your blockchain, they could start deciding what reality is on their own. Because why do they need to agree with other people of what reality looks like if they own 51% of a network, right?
If they're the arbiters of reality, then they create reality how they want. And at a very high level, we can go in a million different directions in this, but the idea behind cryptography writ large is this idea of decentralizing the decision-making process by leveraging technology. And if it isn't sufficiently decentralized, the consensus mechanisms become subject to dishonest actors. So at essence, decentralization is the core for the security layer.
Yeah, exactly. Because we want to exist in a world where we don't need to trust anybody.
We trust everybody, but not anybody.
Yeah, exactly. In that kind of a situation, we can more reliably believe that the kind of, shared state everybody has is correct and nobody has tampered with it. And the problem I think that, Celo specifically was likely also a bit facing was the fact that how are you supposed to grow your TVL, for example, if the value of the token isn't larger than the amount of assets on the chain, right? Because at some point, this thing actually happened to Terra, which was when they were having their awful death spiral. At some point, it became cheap enough to buy just the Luna tokens and become a part of the staking set, and then just decide to steal all of the assets on the platform, right?
Right. If there's 1 million assets at stake and it takes $20 million to co-opt the consensus mechanism, that's just a math equation. Okay, let's do it. We arb 80 million.
Exactly. So the cool thing about when you're relying on these other systems for the validity of your transactions is now that you get to not have that issue, right? Like you can have other issues of, for example, somebody not letting you do transactions potentially or something like this, but the issue isn't that nobody's going to steal your tokens, right? Because doing that would require submitting a proof to Ethereum, and maybe you can't do that if functionally the proof doesn't work out.
So basically what we're saying is Ethereum is awesome. It has won. The layer one wars are over. This is what I tell to modern day hippies. The revolution's over and our side lost. This is what I say to alternative layer ones. We lost. Ethereum won. Accept it. And so I think, you say Celo, I say Celo, whomever, they've accepted this and good on them. It's hard to accept the reality sometimes, but necessary. And Polygon always knew this. I think this is the reason I have been bullish on them, is the fact that they've accepted that there's a use case for a layer 2, at least currently, but what's the use case for an alternative layer 1 at this point?
What's the value proposition? Is it more secure? Right?
No.
Because if a question is just about gas cost, then you can have a layer 2 with very low gas cost, but the security of the good thing, right? So you can kind of combine together something that fits your use case, but still leverages the security of the really secure thing.
Right.
So I think that's a kind of public good, right? In the most real sense, you have a public security layer.
Yeah. And so unless something's fundamentally superior to what we currently know, and what I mean by that is if you could find something that's beyond even what we can think of, in terms of security, again, an unknown, until you find that, I would argue that there will never be anything more secure than Ethereum, simply because of the time advantage it's had and the infrastructure. Think about how many attacks have been perpetrated and thwarted, how many development hours have been spent on securing the network, trial and error. The actual pragmatic method of securing Ethereum has taken close to a decade, if not a decade now. You'd be playing catch up, and you'd be playing catch up from a smaller user community and developer base. I just don't see any practical way in which any layer 1 will ever be more secure, pragmatically speaking, not theoretically, because everyone is more theoretically secure than Ethereum if you ask the founders. But pragmatically speaking, it just won't happen.
And ultimately it is. You can do a bunch of different cool engineering tricks on the side to make your specific layer 2, layer 3, whatever, be more efficient, do better transactions, work in a different programming language, whatever. But ultimately it's what is the security guarantee? You're probably better off with Ethereum. Probably. Yeah. Right. It has a couple of downsides. I think it comes down to the fact that Ethereum still is relatively slow, you could, for example, say. like in terms of finality time of like how long does it take for something to be like completely finalized and won't be rolled back, it's a lot longer than a lot of like these newer L1 competitors, right? But on the other hand, you can even like do stuff with this all optimism, or
Right.
you have options.
The other thing, like, won't get too deep into this, shout out to Mikey Baby, Mike Fast, is like, he would argue that atomic composability is one of the things that Ethereum layer 1 is like lacking. Like, fair enough, right? But there are workarounds.
What
but
does that mean?
Basically being able to transfer assets, not through proxies, but like, again, I don't want to, it gets very technical, but I mean, think like, essentially it's like, let's say you want to take an asset from one chain and move it to another. Like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
And so if you actually know how that happens, it's not as simple as it just gets moved. There are federations and there are proxies and etc. Right? So
yeah, there's a bridge in the middle that has to do a lot of stuff,
and that is a security weak point
problem. Yeah,
by its very nature. So you can make the argument that would be where you'd want an additional or an alternative layer 1, but nah.
Yeah,
Yeah, nah.
I think there's like cool things coming in even on that side.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to see where some of these go. I've been looking at Axelar. I think we'll talk about it in some episodes coming in the future.
Yeah.
Because that's our world. We're doing something interesting with that. So I think I definitely want to show that off.
Cool. So see Celo and Polygon leveraging the strong security of Ethereum. Love to see it. We got time for one more. Do you want to do Dox or you want to do The World is Boiling?
Well, the world is boiling anyway, and I think you all know this. So we can talk about the Dox protocol doing well.
Okay, let's do it. We talked about Arkham, right? It was Arkham DAO, I think it was called.
I think it's just Arkham protocol.
Good. They dropped the DAO. They're not fooling they're not lying to themselves. I like that. This is not financial advice, but anything with DAO at the end of it, at this point, any new DAO, I'm running for the hills. Anything that claims to be decentralized and autonomous at this point and organized to any degree, like, I'm gone. So good for Arkham for not being a DAO. Good for anybody for not being DAO. Good for Solid World for not being a DAO, by the way. I love that about you guys.
Not a DAO. Yeah.
So Arkham, the idea is to basically create bounties for people to dox on chain. What do they call it? On chain or blockchain sleuths? It's a sleuth. I know people are sleuthing around. By the way, Rez, did you know what a group of bears is known as? So like a pride of lions, a
murder of crows, a parliament of ravens,
owls, thank you. A business of raccoons. Well, did you know what a group of bears is called?
No.
A sleuth of bears.
Why?
I have no idea. Could not tell.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay.
I'm sure there's a reason. Anyway, so this idea is you'd go sleuthing around on like Polygon Explorer, ETH Explorer, right? And you'd eventually be able to uncover the identity of certain wallets. It's gaining traction. The crypto community, as you can imagine, these libertarians that don't want to pay taxes and don't want to vote, they don't like the idea that their identities can be made. But wouldn't you know it, if there's economic incentives, the people out there, the fine people in crypto, will find a way to unmask you. How do we feel about that?
I think this is hilarious, and we're still entertained by this. I mean, this is part of what I'm thinking. You know what the other part of me is thinking? Like, damn, Arkham is paying a lot of money to CoinDesk. They have to be, right? Like, that's what's happening here. Like, I think, like, you getting a CoinDesk article, if you've had, like, under $100,000 of traction, and then getting it covered as an uproar, starts to get traction. It's like, cool, good for you.
I think it's also like, it's sensational. Like, again, this cuts against like the core ethos of crypto. And so the fact that a crypto brand would actively look, or create bounties to do this is like infuriating to some. It gets clicks, man. We're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a bounty for $324 for finding a rug pull operator.
$324, yeah.
$324, like, that's news right now.
It's some dude, he lost like his life savings. He lost like 10K.
Yeah,
and he's sitting in like some seedy motel or something. He's smoking his cigar, not a cigarette, not a cigar, because he's not a bureaucrat in Italy.
Only Italian bureaucrats.
That's right.
Cigars.
And he says to his buddy, like, "We need to catch this son of a bitch who took my 10,000." And then like they start pulling like money out of their pockets. They're searching in the back of their like 1970 like Chevy.
Yeah, they find a couple of coins under the motel mattress.
Right.
They go up to a crypto ATM, which takes like 10% commission.
That's right.
They get all of that done, and then finally, you know, they put up $324.
That's yeah. They may panhandle, they may engage in petty crime, and then they count it up and they go, man, this should be enough. $324. Somebody will do this for $324.
Yeah, I love it. Dox protocol, like what a great invention. I think this is just, it is entertainment though, but I want to see like somebody actually like get paid out for like finding anything, right? Because right now, as far as I understand, like nothing's been like claimed. There's just 7 bounties, seven bounties for finding owners of 7 wallets, doxing them, so we would know who they are. And I'm sure, like I'm sure this is exactly what the world needed. It was a Dox protocol.
And then think of it this way: like once we find these 7 wallets, we find out they're in like Angola. What are we going to do about it?
Go to Angola.
Ask the authorities.
Yeah, I'm blanking after it is like go to Angola ? Profit kind of
right.
situation.
Ask the sympathetic authorities to recover your $500 in digital assets on their ledger. Like think this.
Yeah, that checks out. I'm still like fascinated that this thing is basically like a privacy violation, probably among most countries in the developed world, like to some degree. But because they've packaged this also in like a decentralized, like anybody can put up bounties, you don't have to identify yourself when you're like giving the information over. You know, it creates this kind of like veneer of like, we swear this is legal.
That's right.
But I'm pretty sure, like, if you had like information, let's say you were an exchange or something and had KYC'd like these addresses, and then just came up to here and like gave away data like this, that would be a crime. Like that would be against your terms of service, most likely, for one. But it would just be a crime in like most countries to like do anything with this data like this. And you know, the next thing then is somebody's going to open up an Arkham Intelligence bounty to find the identity of the person that talks to the other person, right? Like that's going to be the next use case. It's going to be putting up a bounty of making that person go to jail for doxing, you know.
It's a never-ending loop. Well, if there's one thing I've learned from DAOs, it's if you decentralize criminality, it's no longer criminal.
That's how that works. Like basically any crime you want, as long as it's decentralized.
That's right.
What does decentralized mean? We're not quite sure, but it's definitely something, and definitely jail. Yeah,
definitely jail. Rez, I'm going to the beach. How do you feel about that?
All right. Are you a beach specialist like in Barbie?
I'm gonna decentralize the beach.
Nice. Are you gonna? Does that mean you're just going to get like some sand stuck in your sandals and then you're gonna bring it home? So then the beach is then decentralized.
Yeah.
You know, but you moved the center point of the beach just like a tiny bit.
That's right. Yeah. In a way, when we go to the beach, we're all decentralizing it. We're all crypto enthusiasts at heart.
Yeah, especially if you eat sand.
That's right. And
maybe you are the beach.
I'm going to enjoy the hottest July on record by going to the beach.
Good plan. Enjoy it while it lasts. Yeah.
I think it's going to last for a while.
It is. It's going to last for years, man. But in the meanwhile, we can just shitpost the whole time, so it's great. You know?
This has been a fun shitposting episode. Hey, people in ReFi, do something.
Please.
Guys, you're in ReFi, do something.
Yeah, I will. Let's talk about it next time.
What's going on out there? If you're watching this and you're in ReFi, do something. Also, if you're not in the United States, get out of here. What was the other thing you had to get out of here for?
Wait, being Italian? No, like I
there were 2 conditions. Rewind the tape. Whatever those 2 conditions were, if you're not those things, get out of here. If you're in ReFi, do something. We'll catch you all in the next one. Remember,
eat sand
and ape responsibly. Peace, dudes and dudettes.